Zpívám své zpívání, nejvroucněj jak
Hello everyone and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, the show where Tennille and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order, and here we are at the end of the year 1980.
Whoop whoop!
I'm Whitney.
I'm Tennille.
Well, I guess that's one big difference that's happened over the course of this year of Animation Pilgrimage. I'm Whitney now.
You're Whitney now.
Yeah. Cool. Hopefully soon I'll actually have the Anteater Sona for these episodes, but whatever.
I've got some of them done.
You're working on it, and that's fine. But either way, we've reached the end of 1980, and this was a weird year for me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know. This is one of those years that felt very homogenized.
Yeah.
Like,
It felt like everything we were watching was the same, with a few exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
This was both a short year, and it felt like we still have one foot kind of in the past, it feels like, with stuff from the 70s, and, you know, but at the same time, we are starting to get some stuff that is, like, very distinctly 80s.
Yes. Like, we're in a transitional stage here.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, I liked a few of these films, but I don't feel like any of these films really wowed me.
No, this has been a pretty disappointing year, all things considered.
Yeah. But either way, we did still watch 14 different movies. So let's go over what those movies are.
Yeah. We have Doraemon, the motion picture, started us off. Then we moved on to Phoenix 2772. Next up was The 12 Months, a remake of The 12 Months. After that, we had a remake of The King and the Mockingbird, or like a final cut of The King and the Mockingbird. Then we had another sci-fi film of Toward the Terra. After that was The Missing Link. Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, and Don't Come Back was our first film from the US. After that was the raunchy film Makoto-chan. Then we had another sci-fi film of Be Forever Yamato, followed immediately after another sci-fi film of Cyborg 009, Legend of the Super Galaxy, followed by the dark darling Bloody Lady, then 11 Hungry Cats, and then we saw Pogo for President, or I Go Pogo. And last but not least, we had The Tale of John and Mary/Marie.
So it was a year with 4 2-hour space operas.
Duh.
Like, all 4 of those space operas were 2 hours minimum. It was excruciating, to say the least, to get through all of those, especially when they were back-to-back.
It was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot. I will be happy when this calms down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm getting sick of the space operas.
Yeah, it'll be nice when those go away.
Mm-hmm.
So, here on the Anteater and Cat Award Show, we give many awards to all the different movies and stuff like that. But first, I want to go over some stats, because I love my stats.
You do love your stats.
So, we had 14 films total. Tennille, what was the country with the most films? And I guess, do you know how many?
Well, it was definitely Japan.
Absolutely.
So we had our 4 space operas. 11 Hungry Cats, Makoto-chan. I get the feeling there's like 1 or 2 I'm not thinking about. So I'm gonna edge on the side of caution and say there's 8?
Yes.
Yes!
There are 8. So,
What 2 were in?
Doraemon and 12 Months.
Yes, okay, cool.
So yeah, there were 8 movies from Japan. And then we had 2 from France, which one of those was a co-production with France, Belgium. The United States gave us 2. Czechoslovakia gave us 2.
Nice.
Belgium, of course, helped with one of those. And then the Soviet Union helped with 12 Months.
Yeah.
So again, pretty homogenized this time. Mostly Japan with a couple of helps from other countries, but like it really was just like Mostly Japan.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be watching a lot of Japanese movies.
Oh, yeah. It's just like...
Japan has a huge animation industry.
It just feels like we didn't get a lot of anything else.
Yeah.
Which was true, and that's fine.
And like I said in the last episode, animation is really, like...
Dead in America.
Dead in America, yeah.
Like, the two movies we got were I Go Pogo and Charlie Brown #4.
Yeah, like, just...
Was that #4 or #3? I think that was 4.
I think this is the fourth one, because we've had the
first
one, the Snoopy one, the camp one.
Yeah, so this is the 4th Charlie Brown movie we watched.
Yeah.
And also the last Charlie Brown movie for a very long time.
Yeah, because I think now all the Charlie Brown films are just going to be direct to video or direct to TV.
Mm-hmm. If those haven't already happened.
Yeah.
So they're done.
Mm-hmm.
So another way to divide these movies up is by what medium they did. So traditional, stop motion, paper graphed, 3D.
Right. We're still mostly looking at traditional hand-drawn animation.
Mm-hmm.
But The Tale of John and Marie and I Go Pogo were different.
Yes.
Am I missing any others?
Nope. Each of those were, so I Go Pogo was stop motion, and The Tale of John and Marie was definitely paper craft.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's it. And no 3D yet, but I'm putting that on here because 3D starts in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's 82 yet, but either 83 or 84 definitely has 3D in it.
What about 81?
I skipped right over 81, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Whoops. Okay, well, I don't know about 81 or 82, but I remember that before 85, we have 3D films that are coming around. Even if they're not fully 3D,
They'll
are
have
3D.
like some 3D implementation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right.
those are some fun stats. Okay, so let's get into some of the actual awards. Starting off with the best animated moments. What
Best
pieces
animated
of
moments are pieces of animation that we really loved, even if the whole movie didn't necessarily carry that whole
Feeling.
like wow feeling, but
Mhm.
just like pieces of animation that made us go, ooh, wow, that was cool.
Mm-hmm. I like that bit of animation.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly just have 2.
I have 2 as well.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start off with I really enjoyed some of the space fights towards the end of Toward the Terra. I just think the effects, animation, and like it was very well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just felt like pure chaos and destruction, and I feel
And
like
that is something that does feel distinctly 80s, is the idea of effects animation is going to become more like...
prevalent.
Yeah, like effects animation has always had its own history and its own legacy. But I feel like in the 80s is when it really starts to come into its own and is like, no, we have people who are specialized in making really cool looking effects now. Really
Mhm.
cool looking explosions, really cool looking fire, really cool looking like laser beam gunfights.
And sweat.
Yeah.
Because I forgot about the sweat.
The sweat, yeah.
The sweat in Phoenix 2772. I forgot about that, but yes, that was also just like very distinct of like, ooh, it's sweat. They have sweat that looks like 80s sweat. We have it. It's here.
What a weird thing to get excited about, but it's true. So for my first one, I just want to say basically the whole film of The King and the Mockingbird,
Yes.
it'd be hard not to point out this one because it's a movie that's taken like 50 years to make.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got the stylings of a 30s or 40s style animation, but it's being released in the 80s and it has like it's learned from that. Like it's
Perfected it.
It's perfected it. Yeah.
It's had the time it needs to make it the best that it can be.
Mm-hmm. And as a result, it just leads to some really damn good animation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. That was my other one as well. It's just this movie. Specifically the king himself, but like the whole movie is just very well done.
Mm-hmm. My other pick was The Bloody Lady, just because it did creepy so well.
Mm-hmm.
And that has not really been something that's been a part of Animation Pilgrimage. Creepy has kind of been something that's been done accidentally, or something that, it's like, oh, this is supposed to be kind of creepy because, like, it's a little surrealist. But this one specifically was going for a very, like, simplistic, creepy style.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we haven't seen. And I thought that was cool.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is the best art direction. What movies looked real pretty and most cohesive looking overall? Even if they didn't move the best, what movies were just a lot of fun to look at?
Mm-hmm. This is going to be very similar to my last category, because I have Bloody Lady and The King and the Mockingbird on my list again.
Just like looking at those movies.
Yeah, like, The Bloody Lady was mesmerizing to watch from beginning to end, because it was just so different from everything else we saw this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then The King and the Mockingbird has just, again, it's very clear on what it wants to be. It's got that kind of surrealist vibe to it as well. It's a fantasy setting, but also has that tech in it as well to, like,
Mm-hmm.
make it its own universe. It's very well done. I have another pick, but I'll let you go because I get the feeling that you will say what I also picked.
Maybe. My only choice for this
Oh?
is 11 Hungry Cats.
I thought about putting it on my list because
It's just so charming, and the fact that they were drawing 11 characters all the time,
Mhm.
they used a simplistic animation style and character design to make it work
Yes.
so well. Like, this movie felt like it was just an animated storybook, because it was, and it did it so well. I enjoyed watching this movie so much.
The thing about 11 Hungry Cats is it is smart art direction.
Mm-hmm. That's
It's
why I
very
like it.
smart art direction. It's not necessarily going to be something that makes you take notice of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not going to stand out, but it's very smart. Because you're not supposed to notice, like, how easy they're making it for themselves. Or you might notice and you might think, like, oh, well, they made it easy for themselves. But that takes a lot of work to be able to know, like, what exactly you need to do to make it so seamless.
Oh, yeah. I loved it.
So you don't have the other thing then.
Probably not. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
The Tale of John and Marie.
Oh, okay.
Just because, like, we've seen a lot of these now, like this style of film, but
Mhm.
it always looks good, and they always find a way to make it look better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just really enjoy this style of animation, and it's a shame that we don't see it anymore, or I don't even see, like, homages to it anymore.
I guess that's true. We don't see a lot of papercraft of this particular style of this one guy.
I mean, it's probably because it was a real B to make.
Probably.
All right, so next up, we are jumping into our genre categories. Now, Whitney,
Mm-hmm.
like always, there's a little bit of what do we do here? Trying to fit movies into these genre categories.
Yeah, so normally we like to categorize them by ways that we can put them all into their own sections that make sense. And so this time we ended up with 3 categories. Often we like to try to have 4. And even with these 3 categories, there's like 1 or 2 that don't necessarily super work in the categories they're in.
Because, like, they honestly should just be in a category on their own. But
Bloody Lady.
yeah, but we don't want to put a film in a category all its own.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't...
That just defeats the point of, like, choosing an arbitrary best or worst out of a category.
Exactly.
So we have 3 categories. The first category is comedy. So we have Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, Doraemon, 11 Hungry Cats, Makoto-chan, The Missing Link, and Pogo for President. So these are all comedies more or less.
The best and worst of this one is pretty clear to me.
Well, I don't know that we're really doing worst of each of these categories.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah, I have a distinct winner for myself.
Yeah. 11 Hungry Cats?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that was the only one that I came away from being like, yes, this was nice.
Mm-hmm. Charlie Brown
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, Charlie Brown didn't do much for me. Doraemon, we had some real issues with.
Pogo for President is the only one that would be close, but the video quality that we watched was not great, and the plot of that one is very meandering. It doesn't really know what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
If it had a better story, I think as a comedy movie it would have worked much better, but 11 Hungry Cats just blows it out of the water.
Absolutely. The next category is fantasy fairy tale. So these are fantasy movies or fairy tales, and this is where we decided to put Bloody Lady because it is like a it's a tall tale version of a real person.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Bloody Lady, The King and the Mockingbird, The Tale of John and Mary, and 12 Months. I gotta say, this one was really hard for me to choose.
Yeah, this one's difficult for me to choose, even looking at it now. I'm not very confident in my choice. And I think it's just because, I don't feel like I can compare Bloody Lady to the rest of these.
Mm-hmm.
Bloody Lady should still be its own category because it is. But at the same time, The King and the Mockingbird is far and above the best complete package.
Mm-hmm. Oh, honestly, I wussed out and I chose 3 movies.
I did too.
Everything but The Tale of John and Mary.
Yeah, same. I have the 3 movies highlighted.
Because Bloody Lady was really enjoyable. The King and the Mockingbird is a very technically well-made movie. 12 Months was also incredibly charming and just well-made.
Mm-hmm.
The Tale of John and Mary was kind of boring.
Yeah.
I don't think any one of those 3 movies are wow, these are super amazing. But all 3 of them are very good. Or, they're good.
And, we might be dissing on John and Marie, but I'd actually re-watch John and Marie before a lot of these other films.
Yeah, I'd still
watch
watch John and Mary over a lot of the comedy movies.
Mm-hmm. Or any of the movies in our next section.
Yeah, because our final section is science fiction. The first time science fiction has really got its own category. And we have 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
We have Be Forever Yamato, Cyborg 009, Phoenix 2772, and Toward the Terra.
Toward the Terra is an easy win here for me.
I agree.
Phoenix 272 is interesting, but it just doesn't... It hasn't stuck with me the way Toward the Terra has.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I had a lot of problems with Toward the Terra as well.
I would agree. I think Toward the Terra has some problematic ideas of...
It's a very flawed but still enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it's if you remember the fact that this movie was made in the 80s, and it's not going to necessarily be very nice to specific demographics,
Yeah.
It's still a more enjoyable overall experience than any of these other 4 films.
Mm-hmm. And I specifically wanted to point out Phoenix because I think it's way better. Both Phoenix and Terra are way better than Be Forever Yamato and Cyborg 009.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those films were...
Tired.
So tired.
Mm-hmm.
So uninspired.
It's Yamato is just trying to continue being... Yamato is a big franchise, so they just need to pump out another movie. It didn't really feel like there was a reason for it to exist, and...
But after the gut punch that was the last Yamato film we watched...
It just didn't.
This reboot for Yamato or I guess retcon, so that, it didn't end... just kind of kills it for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's very clear that this series was meant to end, and it is just trying to placate fans
Yep.
from this point forward, and I am extremely bored by that.
Yep. And then Cyborg 009 felt like, well, everyone else is going to space. I guess we will too.
Even though our cast of characters is not equipped for that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Cyborg 009 was a mistake. Not as a whole, but just like, well, maybe a little bit as a whole, but...
This movie in particular was a mistake.
Yeah.
All right. So, next we're going to talk about the worst of the worst. What was the single movie out of all of these that you would never, ever want to watch again, no matter what?
You say single movie, but I chose 4 movies.
4.
I could not tell you, like, I don't want to watch any 4, like, these 4 movies ever again. I don't want to think about them again.
I chose 1.
So what was your one?
Makoto-chan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so adult comedy is very hit or miss to begin with.
Especially for us. We're not super into adult comedies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd say 6 out of 10. Maybe even higher than that.
What does that mean?
Like, maybe 8 times out of 10. We are not going to be into an adult comedy series.
Yes. And adult comedy is one of those things that often feels like it's very timely. So if you're watching it not when it came out, you're probably not going to enjoy a lot of the jokes.
Right. Because,
So-
the comedy is of its time. The politics are of its time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're watching it way later, it's just like, well, this is not for me anymore.
So already a lot of the jokes are missing anyways. And then just throw a screaming child on top of it for the entire movie.
Yeah.
That really killed it for me. If it was just dumb adult jokes, this would not have been the losing factor. But because the main character is a child who is screaming every line, that is the reason I never want to watch this movie again.
Yeah.
You got to remember, I sat through BC Rock and The Missing Link, both versions of that movie, just to see what the differences are.
And you would still...
I would still rewatch that again over this.
See, but at least I feel like Makoto-chan had a couple of, not necessarily redeeming qualities, but it had a couple of scenarios that at least made me go like, okay, that was kind of funny.
I guess. But,
like with the guy who lost his paycheck
Mm-hmm.
and then figured out that it was actually like he had put it in his underwear. And then he's like, well, this kid's been searching for my paycheck all day, so I can't just let him know that I messed up. So then he ends up losing it by trying to make the kid find it in the dirt, and the kid just ends up burying it. Like, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I don't disagree with you. Because it is also on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Along with The Missing Link.
Yeah.
Which I just get nothing from.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't get nothing from. I get negative feelings from. I'm like, I feel gross after watching this. This makes me angry because it's so stupid. And then I also have Cyborg 009, Legend of the Super Galaxy, and Be Forever Yamato on my list.
So long and pointless.
They're so long, so pointless, such, like, shallow productions.
Mm-hmm.
I would not... Again, this is films I would never want to sit through again, and these are 4 films I would never want to sit through again.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, let's flip this on its turn side and
Flip it on its turn side.
what is the best of the best? What was the best movie of the year? Or what was your favorite movie? I actually have one for each of those. My favorite movie and the movie that I personally think was probably the best overall for this year.
That's a good way of going about it, because we're probably going to feel pretty similarly.
Probably. So, the movie that I think is the best overall package for this entire year
Mm-hmm.
still has problems because I chose Toward the Terra.
Oh, okay. Well, Toward the Terror did not make it on my list.
Okay, well, I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's the best sci-fi movie we've gotten in, like, this year for sure, and, like, the last year or two, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it explores concepts that you don't always want to explore, but, like, it does it, and I think the movie overall was very well animated and very well done.
Fair enough. It's definitely one we recommended, and you know, I wouldn't take that back. Like I think it's an interesting movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is King and the Mockingbird. I think is the best package.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's got the interesting history behind the film. It's a good film in general with like fun characters and a unique setting, and like, it also knows what it wants to say, and it knows what it wants to be, and it's admirable that throughout this super long, like, production, that it managed to finally get there.
Yeah.
Like, I just think that's really cool. But probably my favorite film to watch was Bloody Lady, because I just didn't know where it was going.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so different, and like it also has like that historical but not really at all vibe going on for it. And it had like the boob
Nipple blades.
the nipple blade thing. That was crazy. Like I just said, I just didn't know where that one was going, so it was a delight to watch.
Mm-hmm. My personal favorite was 11 Hungry Cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just find it so funny because when that movie was found for us, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I tried to look for any reason not to watch it because it looked like it was going to be a dumb kids movie.
You thought it was going to be a dumb garbage movie.
And then it turned out to be my favorite movie of the year.
I mean, it almost immediately took us by surprise.
Yeah, the movie started and I was like, whoa, there's actual animation here. I thought it was going to be like real simplistic because I like... When I get a new movie and people find movies for us and recommend it, I always grab the movie and I skip through because often they're not in English, so I want to make sure that there's actual subtitles throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw the beginning credits of the movie, which are bad. The opening credits to 11 Hungry Cats are like 2 frames and very not good. But then as soon as the movie started, it was like, whoa, they're animating a cat with a million pieces of paper flying around it, and like they're animating it.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, cool.
And then the comedy just ended up being super on point.
Mm-hmm.
It was just fun.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Well, that's interesting then, because we had 2 completely different favorite/best movie picks
Yeah.
out of a year that altogether we thought was pretty disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 4 movies that were like, hey, you should probably go check these out.
Well, I think that kind of plays into it because it was... None of those movies are like A++. There was no immediate standout like Lupin the Third.
Right, like the Castle of Cagliostro or anything like that.
Yeah, it was more of a... Well, there were good parts and there were good bad parts, and like the ratio from bad to good was closer together than it has been in past years.
Mm-hmm. True.
Well, I think that's going to be it for this award show.
Are you ready for 1981?
No, because we have to go back and get some past movies again, as we always do. So we're going to take at least 2 weeks to go watch some old movies. But then, yes, we're going on to 1981, which I think has more movies in it than any year we've ever had ever.
Is that 1981 or 1982? Because I felt like 1982 was also like a huge year, but that might just be because there's a lot of like well-known films in 82.
Oh, you know what? I just checked the list and you were right. They're both long. But 82 is 1 or 2 movies longer than 81.
Wow.
But they're both longer than any previous year we've ever had. So, buckle in, folks.
I'm excited.
It's getting longer.
Oh boy.
Our time has come, so here we go. Grab your stogies, turn your coat.